Welcome to www.oculushut.com. Been meaning to post up some of these videos for a long time now, but just had no time. So the first game I'm going to show you is called Crashland. I didn't actually get this to work properly. For me, I think there's a problem with the integration with the Hydra. So I'm just going to show you a short clip. Okay, the next game's called Dreadhalls. Now, this scared the crap out of me. Basically, it's a dungeon walking type game. If you remember that game show from a long time ago called Nightmare, kind of like that. You walk around in this dark dungeon, you've got a map, stuff comes out. Anyway, here, have a take a look at this. Okay, next we have First Law. This one's worth a special mention. I really liked it, actually. I really enjoyed it. You'll notice that each of the title screens are quite different, and the mechanisms for getting from title screen to starting a game are quite different as well between the games. Many people are just experimenting with different ways, and some ways work and some ways don't seem to work. As you can see in this game, you get this console type setup in front of you because you're in a spacecraft, and as many people have already mentioned, this really works well, so it's worked well in mech games. The sound effects are so important in these types of games. It really does allow you to immerse yourself much more if the quality of the sound effects are good. As you can see, when you accelerate, when the sound changes, that really makes you feel as if you're going really fast. Having the virtual reality actually lets you fly around in this flight sim in a much more natural fashion, where you kind of go in one direction but you might want to peek to your left or peek to your top right, and the aircraft is going in one direction but you want to look in another direction. I thought that was really fantastic. Kind of reminded me of the spaceships in Battlestar Galactica as well, which is pretty cool. Next is Malfunction. Spoiler alert here, so if you're going to try this out, don't watch this. It's almost like a short film experience type thing. I can see a lot more of these types of things getting created because they are so intense. You get a real sense of presence.
Cześć misiaczku, jak się spało? I zapraszała nas na obiad.
This kind of mirror effect is quite unusual as well, where you see yourself in the mirror. It gives you an odd feeling. I found that these types of first-person shooter style games where you do walk around and you need to explore make me a little bit sick if it's not quite right. In Dreadhalls it seemed fine, I don't know why, but in this game I did feel a little bit of motion sickness, and it's probably just me being a wimp. But in terms of the atmosphere, it was great. It really reminded me of Half-Life 2. Overall, it's a very interesting experience.
Co to jest? Pistolet? Czyś ty zgłupiał? Skąd ty to w ogóle masz? Mówiłam ci, że nie będzie u nas w domu takich rzeczy. Masz się tego pozbyć i to natychmiast.
this game's called Ocean Rift. Basically a deep sea diver wearing a heavy suit who's kind of walking along the bottom of the ocean. And again, for me, this really highlights the kind of importance of sound effects in these VR games. It really does make a difference, and the bubbles that you see coming through, they're really three-dimensional, just as you would see if you were deep sea diving, I guess. The sound effects really make you feel as if you're kind of enveloped with water. It's a pretty compelling experience, and it felt actually quite relaxing walking underwater. It's quite a relaxing experience. With the higher resolution, I could see this kind of being something you might want to do after a hard day at work, kind of, I guess, walk underwater. Oh, and there's a bit of a spoiler at the end here, so you might want to skip ahead. This game's called Proton Pulse. This was really fun, really enjoyed this, and it's kind of a really arcade-like game. I think a lot of people will enjoy this. It's probably one of the best games on Oculus at the moment. It's got a really awesome, upbeat music. From a positional point of view, you're always in one place, so you don't feel motion sick at all. Just I think because the tracking on the Rift headset is so good, you don't feel any kind of motion sickness. Well, I don't anyway. And my girlfriend played this as well, and she gets motion sickness quite quickly on most of the games, but she was fine with this. I definitely recommend you try this out. You definitely have to try these two. Find the developer Teddy0K on the Oculus developer forums, and he's doing some really interesting work where he's using two Razer Hydras. One, he's the right-hand Razer Hydra is using as a weapon or a controller, if you like. Whereas the left Hydra, you have to strap this to your chest, and this acts as a positional tracker. So what this means is that you can move around up and down positionally, and the left Hydra will actually track that position, which kind of removes one of the big issues, I guess, with the current setup, where you can track head movement, rotation, yaw, and pitch, but you can't actually track position. And it also gives you a sense of freedom in terms of you can imagine without the position tracking, you can kind of look on, if you were in front of a desk, you can look on top of the desk, but you can't really just kind of slide your head lower and look under the desk. So first of all is this experimental demo called Hydra Tech, and it's a real-time strategy. The way this works is that if you imagine when I'm standing up at this height, everything looks really small. And as I kind of crouch down towards the floor, then everything gets much, much bigger. And you can imagine in RTS, you might want to kind of move these little characters around. Really reminiscent, for me anyway, of things like Warhammer, where you got these little toy soldiers, but they're all moving around you. With a high resolution, this could be really awesome. And it's definitely kind of Gulliver's World feeling about the whole thing. It's really interesting. Okay, next is this other game, Hydra Cover. Now this has the same Hydra setup where you kind of keep the left Hydra strapped to your chest and use the right Hydra for your weapon control and movement. So the little stick on the right Hydra for movement and the motion tracking. This is my favourite game right now on the Oculus. It's pretty intense, and I think the balance feels really right for me in terms of the amount you use the position tracking. So I don't feel sick at all when I'm moving up and down, like kind of ducking under the crates. And you can imagine I kind of got my arm above my head, so I'm kind of shooting above the crates and ducking up and down to get out of the way and dodging bullets. And so when there's movement, when I've completed this area and I move to the next area, I actually move. The settings here are that you can only move very, very slowly, at least not with this setup. However, kind of looking left and right, ducking up and down, with the left Hydra on your chest is fantastic. Now when you get into this other section where you're gonna have to creep under these concrete blocks, I'm not going to show this because it's pretty embarrassing, but I'm kind of almost lying flat on the floor. You can imagine I'm kind of ducking up and down. I must admit I got quite a workout out of this. I can really see this being a kind of arcade experience, or you got some buddies around your house and you want to just do a high score and pass it around. This would be a really, really fun game. A few beers, just pass this thing around. It could be really, really funny. This game's called Wheels. It's a game where you actually are in a wheelchair. I think from a concept point of view it's really interesting, and I really like it actually. And there's some bits in it that are quite creative, so there's kind of cut scenes, and there's that kind of feeling that at the beginning where you feel like you're in a film, and it almost feels like it's enough to just keep on doing that kind of thing. Just get carried along in the film but really be part of it. So I quite like that bit. But the actual game itself, where you're in the wheelchair, you got to collect these magic balls, I wasn't too into it. It kind of made me pretty sick, actually. I'm not sure why, but it made me feel pretty motion sick. Really interesting idea, though. I think the more of these types of demos we get, the better. Where the ideas are probably, some of these ideas are probably only possible with virtual reality, or they only become compelling experiences if you're using virtual reality.
Did you have another flashback?
What?
Since the X...